Hi educators, in this tutorial we are going to take a quick look at using Google Docs and Google Sites in order to host student blogs safely. Now Google Docs, really to use it for a blog, students would almost use it like a journal. I took one of my old blog posts from when I was back in the classroom and put it in a Google Doc. And what I would suggest is students use the same Google Doc throughout the entire year, but a couple of things that they can do to kind of organize all of their posts within that Google Doc is they can use headings. So where it says Ultimate X here, this font is a heading, and headings are automatically listed down the side. The other thing students could do in a Google Doc is we're going to go ahead and insert a page break. And we're going to have a first page. And perhaps they have a table of contents where we're going to, Ultimate X, and this was, I think, somewhere, we'll just put June 2017. So they would list each of their new blog posts at the top in a table of contents, and then down below, what we'll actually do is we'll highlight where it says Ultimate X, and we'll insert a bookmark. So you can see that little blue ribbon tells me that there's a bookmark there, and then at the top, you're going to insert a link. And when you insert a link, it should come up with your bookmarks in your document. Here it is, headings and bookmarks. Here's my bookmark. So now when students click on this, it automatically takes you to that blog post. So from a very basic standpoint, you could simply stick with Google Docs. Have students blog in a Google Doc. They can share their Google Doc with peers so that peers can read. But managing all of that and having 25 or 30 or however many students you have in your room, having all those Google Docs and students having to open them all separately can get a little bit challenging to do with students. So that's where your Google site is going to come in. Now, one more thing about the Google Doc before we move to the Google site. What students are going to want to do is they're going to want to share their Google Doc. We're going to change the link to North Olmsted City Schools so it's really easy for everyone in our district to view, but really it's only going to be students in our class or maybe another class that are viewing and reading our blog until we're ready to maybe push it out a little bit beyond that. The other thing that we're going to do is you have the ability to select viewer or commenter. Now, this can be a decision of a particular student, or it can be a decision as a class as a whole, or maybe one you progressively come to. So viewer is going to let other viewers just view what you've written. However, if you select commenter, that's where other students can go into that student's doc. They can't edit anything in the document, but they can add comments. So that's the way to kind of take it that next step to the blog is allow students to comment. And I love the comments because they can be hidden, they can be deleted if need be. Students can manage them, but no one can change or modify the student's original work. So that's why I would never suggest doing a student blog and then making peers editors, because they could modify the original post, even if the direction was to put your comment in a specific place in their document. Commenter really just keeps that from happening. So I'm going to leave this as commenter. And then I'm going to head over to a brand new Google site. And I got there by going to sites.google.com, or you can click on the app launcher in the top corner and select Google Sites. Now, the really important thing to understand about the way Google Sites, the way Google Sites are set up in our district is students don't have the ability to create their own web pages. We don't want students creating a whole ton of web pages and other issues coming about. So instead, we have it set so that teachers can create web pages, but they can add students as editors. Now, You could potentially blog 100% through a Google site. You create Google Sites for every student. They blog within there, but there's no current comment features within Google Sites. So that's why I'm suggesting Google Docs combined with the Google site. Teacher creates one site, just one. Teacher is the only person editing that site unless if you have a co-teacher. So I've created one site. I'm the only editor on the site unless if I have a co-teacher or perhaps I've, designated a student that's really going to help me monitor things. In this site, a couple things that I am going to do. First off, I'm going to set off with creating on my site here. If you've never been into sites before, let's start at the beginning, I guess. So we have a big title for our page. So I'm just going to call this Classroom Blog, and I'm going to make the title Mrs. Blaze's Blog. I'm going to title my site. So the title of my site is also the title of the file that's in my drive. And then the larger title here is what people see when they go to the site. On the home page, I am going to insert some text. Check out our blogs. Open the doc to leave comments. On the home page, I might post things like reminders for students or directions if we've come up with a set of expectations on what goes in our blog, or a set of expectations as a class on how we comment on others' blogs. That will go all on this homepage. You can insert images, you can insert files from drives, you can even add video in there as well. The other thing I'm going to add on this page is quick links to all of the students' blog pages. So I'm going to insert and I'm just going to bullet point. Oops. We're gonna backspace that. We're gonna hit enter, and we're going to bullet point each of the student names. So I'm Leah, Don, Joe, Mona, Susie, Fred. Okay, there is my class of students, and now once I have all their names here, I have to create pages for each of my students that their doc is going to go. So there is some setup on the teacher standpoint on the initial part. But once you have this set up and running as a teacher, there's actually not a lot you need to do in terms of managing the Google site. The Google site's just going to be the docking station where all of the blogs are going to be found. So I'm going to create a page for each student. I'm just going to do 2. Oops. Fun. I could take time and customize these pages. I guess I could temporarily give students access to customize their own page, but really there's not going to be anything that they're adding to this page. What is going to get added to this page is, let's see, Leah's blog. Let's see if this manages to find. Sometimes I have issues with Google Sites finding the documents and I have to scroll through. Oh, look at that. It actually did find what I wanted. Okay, so I've now embedded Leah's page or blog page, that's her Google Doc, within the Google site. So now when students go to Leah's page, they're going to see her Google Doc right here and they can read it from there, but then they can quickly switch to another student in the class. Now we're going to head back over to our home page. So we're going to click on the Pages button and click to Home. And I want to link Leah's name. So I'm going to highlight Leah, click the link button, and link to Leah's page. It's going to page Leah. So there goes to that page. Let's take a look at how that looks for a student that would come to the site. So we're going to preview. And here's that home page. I can see student names up here, but once you get so many names across the top, it starts to waterfall down the side, like a lot of web pages do. I can, however, quickly see all the students up here down here on the lower level. I can also see what will this look like on a phone, a tablet, or a computer screen. Now, students, they would come to Leah's page, and I can click and interact with Leah's blog without even opening it. So I can read it right from the site. If I want to comment on it, I can click this little arrow, and from here it's going to open her full doc, and because I have commenting access only, I can leave her a comment within the blog. So as you can see, these documents are live. They're going to update as students are writing, and students are going to be able to easily access them all from one landing page. So as a teacher, here's what your challenge is with this. It's to take a Google Doc, and I want you to actually write your own first blog entry and then set up just a really basic Google site to host your blog. Now let's take a look at the very last step, and that's getting this site to all of your students appropriately. So we're going to close out of the preview and move myself down to the other corner. And we're going to talk about publishing our blog. To publish our blog, we are going to click the purplish publish button in the corner, and it's going to ask you what name you would like, what's the web address. So this will become the web address that I give all of my students right here. This whole thing, which of course my arrow doesn't want to highlight at the moment. There we go. I will give all of my students that, and then I can choose what level of access is given to my site. Now, a couple things to keep in mind when you're publishing a site. You can click Manage, and you can be very specific and change the level of access where you actually go back to Restricted and you list all of your student names, and only students in your class can access that blog. You would do that up here. So if I had another student, let's say this is another student here, I can give them published viewer access only. So I can just restrict it to my class. I can change this back, and I can restrict the published site to North Olmsted City Schools. If I were to make the published site public, technically, not everyone can read what is on the site, because all of the Google Docs that are embedded on the site also have to be shared publicly as well. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to share with parents, all of those individual documents would then have to be shared with those people as well. I guess in one way, you could publish your site publicly and then have each student only add their parent to their blog. So when a parent goes to the site, they can't actually read anyone's blog but their own child's. That's just another way to go about it. Keep in mind, your draft is to edit the site. You do not want to change your draft to North Olmsted City Schools or anyone with a link. You want that to be only you or one or two other specified users. Getting everyone into one site at once can get a little messy. So when you're ready, you just click publish. And then the other thing you have to keep in mind is once you publish, if I go back and make changes, and let's say I call this Leah's blog and I want to add an image, and I just pick a stock image here. Oh, that's pretty. Sticky notes. If I change this page, in order for these updates to show live via the link, I have to click publish again. So the way web pages work is you can continue to edit a ton on the web page, but you have to click publish in order for it to show. Now, what this is not going to impact is those Google Docs that are embedded. Those Google Docs are live. You do not need to publish your site in order for the updates in the Google Doc to come through. However, if you change Google Docs or put in a new attachment or get a new student in class, you will need to publish in order to see that content. If you have any questions or it gets a little confusing, don't hesitate to reach out. But both tools, I think, are a great starting place to safely blog with students and begin to give students an audience for their blogs.